Hi, my name is Lasan Jong. I was told that I need to make YouTube videos because I have a lot to say and it is important. People have responded very positively and they think that this is something that should be widely disseminated. So I'm going to do a series of videos, and this one is the first and experimental one. So here goes. Collectively, I call Democrats, liberals, and progressives Dumocraps because they're dumb and full of crap. They have no idea what it is that they're saying. I'll give you a perfect example. Most Dumocraps think that expanded government programs are good for our country. They are so ridiculously dumb. I can't even begin to describe how dumb it is. Here's why. When you want to expand government programs, what you're essentially saying is that you have the right to somebody else's money, or you have the right to control their money. Now, when you put it to them that way, most Democrats will say, absolutely not. We are not saying that, and we don't advocate for that. But the fact of the matter is, when you expand government program, any government program, it is exactly that which you are advocating for. So constitutionally, let's start with that. Show me where on the Constitution or where in the Constitution it says that you or anybody else has the right to somebody else's money. Show me. I challenge you to find anything that comes close to saying that you have some right to other people's money. So you're not going to find it. Second, why do you think that you have the right to somebody else's money? And why is it that I think that you are saying that? Well, how does the government pay for things? Well, they have to collect taxes. And in our country, the Democratic Party has convinced at least half this country that the rich don't pay their fair share of taxes. And when you ask most people, and I've done this literally hundreds of times, how much do you think the top 1% pays? Not one person has ever come close to answering the question correctly. So here's the data. The top 1% make approximately 18 or 19% of the money in this country. So round numbers, call it 20. But they pay for 41% of the income taxes collected in this country. 41%. That's more than double what they are earning in this country. Their average tax rate is approximately 25%. It's actually slightly higher, but let's call it 25. Contrast that to the bottom 50%, who make approximately 13% of the money in this country. They pay approximately 2.5% of the taxes in this country at a rate of approximately 2.5%. Now think about that. They are paying approximately 6 times less taxes than the rich in terms of proportion to their income levels. However, the Democrats have spun around and have blamed the rich for not paying their fair share. Now, I don't know about you, but rationally and logically, how do you justify the data being not the rich not paying their fair share? It's ridiculous. But more than half the country thinks that the rich don't pay their fair share of taxes. This is ludicrous. In terms of capital gains tax, where the tax rate is lower than the marginal tax rate, right now it's around 23.5%. The Democrats are trying to pretend that capital gains taxes are equivalent to income taxes, and therefore, because it's lower, the rich don't pay their fair share. Well, think about it. If the rich make 20% of the money in this country, and they're paying a 23.5% capital gains tax, they're still paying more than what their fair share is. But the Democrats won't let that go, because they need to convince you that they have the right to rob the rich of the money to give to you. Now, simply put, when government programs, social programs in particular, are used, they're saying that the top 1% has to pay for more than 41% of that increased burden or that spending. And they're saying that the government is going to take that money and give it to those that they think deserve it. And when you vote for politicians who advocate for the expansion of government programs, you're essentially telling them, yeah, go ahead, steal that money for me, steal that money on my behalf. And you're saying, therefore, you have the right to that money. This is utterly ludicrous. Now, if you think about it, this is a very corrupting idea because our Constitution was based on individual rights, individual freedoms, not societal rights and societal freedoms. I challenge you to find where in the Constitution it says that society has rights. You won't find any. But that's what you're advocating for. So again, you are being unconstitutional, un-American, and highly immoral. This is what Dumocraps stand for. But they don't even know that this is what they're standing for. And when you confront them with this reality, 99 out of 100 times their reaction is sheer anger. Angry because I make them look dumb, foolish, and idiotic. But this is the reality. And then they will come up with all kinds of lame excuses as to why stealing from the rich is a good thing. One of the most stupidest comments I ever heard was, well, that's what Robin Hood did. First of all, Robin Hood was and is and still remains a fictional character. Number two, that's not what Robin Hood did. Robin Hood turned an injustice and fought injustice and defeated injustice by stealing from those who stole from the poor. If you want to take the case of the Robin Hood as an example, it's the reverse right now. The government is Sheriff of Nottingham who's stealing money from the rich inappropriately and giving it to the poor. And so the injustice is not against the poor, it's against the rich. So, let's forget this nonsense about what Robin Hood is good for and didn't do and did do. But more substantially, I've heard lame-ass excuses like, well, it's the law. And my reaction to that is, well, gee, slavery was law too. So what are you saying? You're a racist? You didn't want slavery laws to be overturned? Or maybe you're a misogynist and you didn't want women to have the right to vote. It's retarded to think that just because something is the law, that it is moral. It isn't. In this case, it's clearly not moral. But then people say, well, if you don't like the law, change it by voting politicians into the Congress that will change that law. Oh, okay. So what you're saying is that if slavery was brought back by popular vote, you would support slavery. Or if women were denied the vote through, again, democratic processes, you'd support that. Or if by democratic processes we elected congresspeople that would curb voting rights of minorities, you'd be okay with that. I mean, what kind of a stupid argument is, it's the law or it's the democratic process? No, those two have nothing to do with right and wrong. We hope that those two reflect right and wrong, but the reality of it is it doesn't. Then you get other idiotic arguments like, well, gee, the rich will do just fine. Okay, that's like saying, well, gee, they're in a gilded cage, so what are you complaining about? It's beautiful, it's made of gold, it's got plenty of water, food, entertainment. Yeah, but you can't do whatever you want to do with your life. And that's what you're saying. You're saying they'll be just fine is not good enough. You're saying you have the call and right to their effort, their money. And by putting them in that cage and saying, pay up or else, you're essentially, I'm exaggerating a little bit when I say this, but you're essentially turning them into your slaves. and you're saying that slavery is okay as long as it's the rich who are toiling for the poor, or for me, in most people's cases. That is utterly nonsense and ridiculous. There's also other arguments that people have made that are, I mean, just on the surface of it may sound good, but it is just utterly retarded. We went over the rich don't pay their fair share of taxes, but there's also